Find a sturdy chair that allows your hips to be in line with your knees or slightly higher than your knees. Feet are able to root into the floor. You want to feel solid and comfortable here. Feet are going to be settled at hips width apart and parallel. Next, you want to make sure that you're sitting right on top of your sitting bones, so rock your pelvis forward and back so that you can find that place right in the center of your sits bones to find your neutral pelvis. Next, you want to grow tall through your spine, moving your head up into your hands. Roll the shoulders back a few times so that you can settle the shoulders into a position that is more optimal on the back of your rib cage. Now we have our upright sitting position. We can now work into the different parts of our body, starting from the ground up. We begin with lifting and lowering the heels. This is going to mobilize the ankles and the toes and start to wake up the body from the ground up. You can do about 10 reps of these heel lifts. Next, you'll lift the toes and flex the ankles. Ground your heels down into the floor, really pressing the energy of your heels into the floor to lift the tops of your feet. Flexion of the ankle is very important for walking and balance. Keep the ankles flexed and now isolate grabbing the toes. So these toe grabs are going to strengthen the toes, strengthen the arches, and again begin to wake up the energy in the feet and the ability for the feet to be very strong and flexible. Now we're going to work on the rotation at the ankles. This will also affect the rotation going up into the knees and into the hips. So simply pivoting on the balls of your feet, taking the heels out and in, out and in. Continue to keep your spine tall, shoulders back, and continue to breathe. These simple movements will help to remove stagnation from the body and increase circulation. For a moment, take your hands to your hips to check and see that you still have your neutral pelvis and neutral spine. We will now take some time to focus in on our breathing. Place one hand at your chest and one hand at your abdomen. And inhale and exhale naturally. On the inhale, allow for the belly to rise. And on the exhale, allow the belly and the chest to fall. This is the natural rhythm that occurs with our breathing. Inhale, letting the body expand. And on the exhale, letting the body release the breath. And there will be a natural contraction of your belly to your spine. Now moving the hands to the sides of your ribs, giving yourself a hug. Allow the breath to move into your fingertips. This is going to wake up our rib cage breathing and allow for our ribs to get more expansion, release tension that may be stuck around the rib cage and into the back. Rib cage breathing is very helpful for when we need to keep the core engaged. Belly breathing is helpful for when we're needing to relax and calm the body and get into our parasympathetic state of mind. Now we go into moving the spine, probably one of the most important things that we should move every single day. We begin with arching or extending the spine and curling or flexing the spine. Extend the spine and flex the spine. As you extend the spine, look up slightly. Draw the elbows back, squeezing the shoulder blades together. As you flex the spine, reach forward to widen the back and open the back. As you arch or extend, squeeze the shoulders and look up. As you flex, look down and reach forward. Continue in this way to massage the spine and to also move the shoulder blades on the back of your rib cage, loosening up any tightness that may be there. Now we work with a more isolated variation of our flexion and extension. Here we're just going to move the pelvis back and forth, a little bit more deliberately than we did earlier. This will wake up important muscles in the spine and the pelvic floor and will also lubricate the hip sockets. All of these efforts to mobilize and strengthen the body for more confidence and balance. Taking the spine now into a side flexion. From here, we're going to lift one of our hips up away from the chair and alternate, lifting up one side and then the other side. Keep the feet planted into the floor and minimize the movement in the upper body. There will be a little bit of residual movement, but allow for most of the movement to come from the hips and the sides of the spine. For this next sequence, without any sort of side flexion, keep the spine straight, keep the waistline long, just tilt side to side. You can keep the arms in front of you or down along your sides, whatever feels more comfortable. Tilt only as far side to side as you can keep your opposite hip anchored, and only as far as you feel comfortable. Make sure your chair feels stable and steady. Meanwhile, your legs are still rooting into the floor, your shoulders are back and down, neck is long, and spine feels very lifted and decompressed. Now that we've tilted side to side, we'll tilt forward and back. Continue to keep your spine straight and only tilt the amount that feels comfortable. You will wake up all of the muscles around the trunk, front, back, and sides. If you need to, place your hands on your thighs so that it can help to catch your weight as you move forward. Resist the temptation to arch your spine as you tilt back. You may find it helpful to place one hand at the front of your rib cage and the other at the back of your rib cage to help to keep the ribs in place and the spine in place. You can also place your hand at the crown of your head and lift your spine up and head up into the hands to encourage the length of the spine. We now move into circling. We take all of the tilts, all of the directions, and blend them together. You're going to do 3 circles in each direction. Continue to breathe naturally and easily as you move around your circle. And now circle to the other direction. Continue to keep your feet and hips anchored, your spine long, back straight, and waistline lengthened. Resist the temptation to crunch at your sides or lift up the hips. Finish up your last circle and rest for a few breaths. Next, we go into spiraling the spine and wringing the spine out. Simply rotate from one side to the other. We want to wring out the spine from the waist up. Keep your legs in the center and your hips squared, and just move from the waist up. For a slightly more challenging variation, you can interlace your hands at the back of your head and open the elbows out to the sides. This will open up the chest and allow for a nice stretch in your pecs. Keep your head pressed back into your hands, not allowing the hands to push the head forward of the body. You can also assist your spiral with using the chair, holding on to the arm or the side of the chair. Settle in for a few breaths on one side. And then switch to the other side, holding on to the chair to assist the spiral and the twist. Not using the chair to force any sort of movement into your spine, but just helping to assist it and deepen it to what your spine is able to manage. Our next exercise will be to strengthen the shoulders. Using the arm rests on the chair, grab a hold and pull back, squeezing the shoulder blades together to strengthen the muscles between the shoulders and the backs of the arms. If you don't have arm rests, simply hold on to the front of the chair and pull into the chair to create a little bit of resistance for your back. You can allow the spine to gently arch and for your gaze to go up slightly. Then we move on into spiraling the arms. From there, arms are out to the sides, and you can externally and internally rotate your arms from within the shoulder sockets. Make sure the arms are moving from the arm bone and not just the hands. Really open up the hands and lengthen the fingers for optimal mobility in the arms and shoulders. We do this to help the shoulders maintain an upright posture over the pelvis so that gravity is not pulling on us and taking us more and more forward over the course of our day. And moving right along, sit up forward onto the front of your chair, open up your feet a little wider than your mat, and begin to reach from your side and across to the opposite foot. As you reach over to the side, look in that direction. And as you reach down to the foot and hinge forward, look in the direction that your hand is reaching. We start off very simple and basic, just with the arm at shoulder height, and repeat that to the other side. So reaching to the side, looking to the side, and then reach and lean across to the opposite foot. You can add extra little bit of engagement by squeezing the hand into the foot, into the ankle. Now we take it one step further. For those who can, reaching up and over a little higher, spiraling and then coming across to the opposite foot and perhaps reaching to the outside of the foot this time. So you're increasing the range of motion, reaching a little further back and a little further across. Your opposite hand can rest on your thigh for support as you lean forward. So you'll do a handful to each side. Again, you're reaching as far up as feels comfortable on your shoulder and then across, possibly to the outside of the foot, if your shoulder and back and hips can manage the range of motion. If it's not going to that fuller range of motion today, that's okay. Just work within the range that makes sense for you, and over time with consistency, you will be able to go through a fuller range of motion. When you're finished, return back to center and settle for a few breaths.